Michael Horn is the authorized American media representative for the Billy Meier contacts, which he has researched since 1979. He's a writer, producer of the documentary The Silent Revolution of Truth, as well as a writer, producer, and narrator of the DVD series The Meier Contacts, The Key to Our Future Survival as well. Michael Horn, back on Coast to Coast AM. Michael, how are you?
George, I'm fine, and I thank you for having me back on. And if I may, I'm sure you'll second this. I thank Lisa also for all of her work on behalf of, bringing the Meier case. And
absolutely. I'd second it and third it and fourth it as well. It was good to see you this last weekend, by the way.
Yes, thank you.
Conscious Life.
I ran up there. I heard you were there, and I ran up, and that was our first meeting face-to-face, but we've encountered each other several times in my 10 appearances on Coast to Coast.
Absolutely. Well, it was kind of neat because, you popped right in. We had all these people around us, and I knew who you were, but you never know for sure when you're meeting someone for the first time like that. And I want to thank you for coming up to say hi.
Well, it was also a relief because you knew who I was, and that made me feel better about knowing who I was, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hey, you always know it's a poor talk show host that after you've been on so many times, if you had introduced yourself and I went, who? We have a problem here.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit, Mike. There's lots to talk with you about today.
Yes.
Lots, even beyond the Billy Meier case, because you are looking at a number of other issues. But tell me a little bit more about you. We've got some new listeners by the thousands are coming on now across this planet, in all shapes and sizes and walks of life. They're picking us off of Streamlink in Australia now. They're all over the place. Tell us about Michael Horn.
Well, I'd be glad to, but is there something in particular so I don't just ramble on? And
No, I'll ramble on.
Okay, well, I was born at a very young age. I think I should start there. My background is in the arts and in music and in a variety of areas. I got involved with the Meier case in 1979 when I saw the first photo book on it. I've written and produced music. I've invented things. I've worked as a salesman, all sorts of stuff. And even now, simultaneously with the work on the Meier case and the film that just came out last year, I am the co-producer and co-director of a new film on a completely unrelated topic, or at least seemingly unrelated topic, a film that I made with my daughter. And we finished it in December. I submitted it to a film festival, and we won an award already, and it's just coming out. And I'm glad to be able to talk about it because it's something that is seemingly so different than UFOs. But the Meier case itself is less about UFOs than it is about some very fundamental, very human issues. And so my other film actually is compatible in that way. I've been a painter, a designer. I started the frivolous, still ongoing fashion fad of fingernail art.
Did you do that?
Yeah, in the 60s in New York City.
Does that include toenails, too?
Well, that people took it and ran, no pun intended, ran with it. But
because there was a woman at the Conscious Life Expo who had her toenail painted somewhat, and I guess it's a fad thing now. Not a fad thing, but a fashion thing now.
Well, yeah, they've been doing it for 42 years. I mean, that's when I started the fad 42 years ago.
Jeez.
It kind of dates me, but yeah, and I've won awards for songs and different things like that, and I've just kind of had, often by necessity, a kind of eclectic life. A door would close, another one would have to open, or I'd have to saw my way through a wall.
Well, isn't that life, Michael? A door does close and another one opens, just when you don't think they ever will.
Many times. And so many people nowadays, certainly in our country and other places, are discovering, unfortunately, some rapidly closing doors and upheavals in their lives. And that's another reason I have this other film out, and it's another reason why I do the Meier material. So for me, everything is interlinked. There's a common and deep purpose, and it has to do with human life, our evolution here on the planet, and finding out what's true and what isn't, and what we can do with the information we have. Sometimes we're very attracted to information, but we get it and we know no more what to do with it than we did before we got the information. So I want to be practical in what I do, as well as delving into some interesting territory.
Hard to believe, a couple of weeks ago, Billy Meier turned 72 years old.
That's right.
My gosh.
Yeah, he's been at this for 67 years, since he was a 5-year-old boy. So it is outside of for the most part, it is outside of the scope of our understanding who he is. I don't mean as some special person, but what this life is about for this man and what it's been like, and the purpose behind it. It's so very different than what we get presented with in the so-called UFO lore and all. It's so totally different. I've been to Switzerland to hang out with him and other people there 10 times in 9 years, and this is not anything like what most people imagine this to be about. These are very down-to-earth people who live a very high-maintenance existence in a rural part of Switzerland, a lot of work all the time, 24/7, 12 months a year, and how this all works with so-called extraterrestrial contact case is part of the delight of this whole story.
This Billy Meier story is truly incredible. He is the source of many controversial UFO photographs and films, and he claims that he's a regular contactee with extraterrestrials who impart for him spiritual and philosophical wisdom. He's made some predictions over World War III that haven't come to pass yet, Michael, and I wanted to talk with you a little bit about that. He seems to have pushed the dates off a little bit, or at least that's my interpretation. Well,
let me see if I can clarify, because what he has reiterated and what you can find in the material is that World War III is not a prediction. Maybe I've missed something, but it's a prophecy. And they distinguish between prophecies and predictions kind of like this. A prediction is an event that will occur with a 100% certainty. Very often it's kind of a cosmic nature, like, the movement of a planet or a meteor or the eruption of a volcano that has nothing to do with human activity. A prophecy is a warning about an event that will occur if human beings do not intercede, change their causal actions to create a different effect or result. World War III could have occurred as far back as in the late 80s and 90s, but people around the world, many of whom know nothing about the Billy Meier case, but who are devoted to peace and wanting to not have this kind of a thing, occur in our world, people have been working to try to bring more peaceful consciousness. There's a very concerted effort in the Meier case in very specific things. And all of these things put together have contributed to this event being pushed back. So if I would be worried if I read that there's a certainty of a World War III. And Meier, even in the transcripts, when you read the conversations between, I'll just say it once, the alleged extraterrestrials and Meier, they attribute to him a certain optimism and that he doesn't give up hope for humanity, that people can and will learn and change their ways and not have to bring down on, that we won't have to bring down upon ourselves things of such unimaginable devastation and magnitude that we... unimaginable is the word. We don't know. There are people in other countries that know it better than we, whose lands have been for long periods of time wrecked by war, in their own, in their homes and their villages and their cities and their countries. We've had a horror in terms of 9/11, but beyond that and beyond maybe going back to Pearl Harbor, we've been relatively untouched. The prophecies state otherwise, and they're very specific about the U.S. They foretell tremendous damage here if we do not change our policies drastically and immediately. And I think that maybe some of that is underway. I would like to think it is.
So these are things that could be, not necessarily will be.
Right. And if you read, for instance, if you do read some of the, on my website, there's tons of free information, and I always promote that idea because people can delve into this stuff without having to spend a dime to find out whether or not they want to pursue the information in this case and find out if it has meaning to them. The prophecies and the predictions are listed on my website. Those that are available in English, for the most part, are there. And, if you want to go to something specific, we have a section under the prophecies and predictions from 1958 where Meier foretells 2 U.S. wars with Iraq, the second war led by a president who will be the son of a former president, and it will lead to an unbelievable disaster, to torture, etc. Now, that was published in 1958, and in the same set of predictions, he foretells the coming of a disease that he names AIDS. He foretells plastic credit cards, portable telephones, computers